On to the next question now, which is a little bit easier to answer because it's looking backwards rather than forwards. But just trying to understand what are the things you've learned over the last 8 months.
Okay. So I think one important lesson is I underestimated how quickly and aggressively things can change, especially in areas like public policy. I was very surprised by how quickly governments passed stimulus, but also how the rules were around what you can and can't do were changing all the time. And I don't think we saw that in the past. I think more fundamentally, the thing that is a more consequential lesson is that I think, at least from my point of view, I think we've just proven that as human beings, we are not ready to come together or unable to come together to solve the challenges that we face collectively globally. And so if you think COVID is scary, the climate crisis and what we see potentially happening, not potentially happening, will happen. The challenge is there. And the only way to solve climate change is through coming together as human beings and working together as governments, as NGOs, as companies, as people. And I thought that we would eventually get to it. And I'm more skeptical that we will, having seen what happened this year. And the conclusion is fairly terrifying for the future of our children and grandchildren. I think if we're gonna deal with climate change the same way we've dealt with COVID, God help us. And I think related to that as well, and I think the outcome will come in kind of probably very soon, is the importance of addressing inequality. And I think kind of COVID kind of pushed things a little bit in terms of accelerating kind of things that were already happening for a very, very long time. But I think in many ways, COVID has exacerbated the inequality within countries and actually to an even bigger degree between countries. And so I think that's also a challenge that we have to solve as human beings to have a better world for children and grandchildren. I don't know, I mean, Aubrey, you may be more philosophical about these sorts of things than I am. Do you have any thoughts?
Thoughts on a post-COVID world? I don't know. I mean, look.
No, I mean the lessons from I think this year.
I mean, yeah, as you say, yeah. Perhaps actually the thing that's just shocked me is how I'll try and avoid being political, but just how incompetent politicians can be, and. I mean, other things I've learned. I suppose actually the thing that's been much more of a learning curve for me, or that has been much more informative for my learning, has been Wirecard. That was so. There's a company that I was short when I was at Odoo, 7 years ago, that finally broke, a few months ago, and nothing to do with COVID, but just finally these things catch up with you. But here's the thing, risk management, the longs that I pretty much laughed at the time, if they employed successful risk management, they made far more money out of it than any of the shorts. And I think that was a massive lesson in humility for me. It's not enough to be right, you also have to make money out of it. Now, look, if you're right enough, you're going to make money. But yeah, you need to, but I think, you know, a level of humility is required. Yeah, it's, yeah, so I'm also quite glad though that that one has broken, just because, I mean, that's a company that hacks my own personal emails. Yeah, and I got off lightly. Friends of mine been, yeah, accosted outside their children's schools by that company. So yeah, lesson learned. Another one, it's much easier to be long than short. Lot better for your health too.
Thanks.